In this question, we need to understand what external code sources are and be able to write a clear discussion with 3 advantages and or disadvantages of using those external code sources. So there's 6 marks up for grabs. The mark scheme says it's split into 3 categories, so you can be the low mark band, 1 or 2 marks. Mostly if you write bullet points, or if your writing doesn't make sense, don't write in proper sentences, you're going to be in the low mark band, or 3 to 4 marks if most of what you've said makes sense, or if you haven't quite done enough advantages or disadvantages. To get a proper discussion for 5 or 6 marks, we need to write in clear sentences. You need to argue your points clearly. We need to make sure we've got enough points and there's minimal spelling or punctuation or grammar mistakes. So let's have a look at what external code sources are and what the advantages and disadvantages are. So we're going to look at an example for this. I've been working on a website called create.withcode.uk just to let students mostly and teachers be able to write and run some Python within their browser. So there's a lot of different external code sources I've used within this website. The idea is most people in most schools are installing Python onto the school computers. You type the commands out and then you try and debug it. I wanted something that was much easier to share, something that's online, no software needed to download, so you could use it for homeworks and all that sort of thing. So you can write any code on here. So name equals input what's your name, and then say hello. Like that sort of thing. You can test it in your browser. My name's Mr. Dring and it says hello, that sort of thing. So to make this work, there's a lot of code I've written, but there's also a lot of external code sources, some code that I've borrowed from other people. Now all of these are open source, so that means they're freely available. I didn't have to pay for them. They're designed to be used by other people, and I've acknowledged that other people have used them. But why have I used them? Let's have a look and see. So if we go back to the mark scheme for this question, these are the advantages of using an external code source. So the AQA have said the programmer may not have the expertise to develop the particular piece of code themselves. That's certainly true. Here we have to be able to type some code in just in text. So you write some Python code, and we have to be able to convert that so that it'll run inside a browser. So it's kind of converting Python into JavaScript, which is beyond my skills level. So there's a fantastic free library called Sculpt, which I think is written by Scott Graham, and he's done the hard work of converting Python code so that it runs inside your browser, so it's not going to crash your whole computer. You can't damage your files. It's safe to use online, that sort of thing. So I don't know how to make this, but I do know how to use it, and it saved me loads of time. So another advantage, it could speed up the development of the own projects. Well, definitely, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Some external code sources, a very commonly used one, Jquery, used in loads and loads of websites, designed to speed up the whole development process. It has a bit of a reputation for encouraging lazy programming, but it certainly makes designing a website much, much faster. The libraries could be updated by an external body. Well, in this website here, I've also tried to put a microbit simulator in so that students can test code in Python on a microbit. Now, the MicroPython library that determines what sort of things you can do, like different LEDs. It's a very, very active project at the moment. There's a couple of people working really hard to make that library secure and efficient and functional. So all of that hard work's being done without me worrying about or contributing to. They're updating it, they're making sure it's loads better. It saves me a huge amount of effort there, and I can just benefit. Hopefully I can contribute to it too. But you can certainly share the load if you use an external code source. So disadvantages then, well, you're relying on the correctness of someone else's code, which can be a really bad thing potentially. If someone makes a mistake with one of the libraries that I've used in here, if someone deliberately hacks one of these libraries, which is unlikely, but they could, then that hack would be included in my website and also thousands of other websites, so you do have to be careful about that, which means it's very unlikely that you'd use an external code source on, I don't know, a missile control system or a nuclear test station, something like that, because you want to make sure that you're in charge of absolutely everything. You don't want to rely on someone else's problems. Doesn't mean, of course, that you won't make mistakes, but just you can be responsible for everything there. You need to become familiar with how to use the external code source. Each of these here takes a little bit of getting used to. They might save you time once you've got the hang of them, but the documentation you've got to read through, you've got to find the code samples, see if it does exactly what you've got to do. That does take time and effort, so you've got to get familiar with the external code source. It might not be particularly well documented. Now, most of the external code sources that are commonly used are well documented, certainly Jquery, Jquery UI. Sculpt is getting there, but it's not particularly well documented, certainly for adding extra functionality in there. So it can be hard to learn how to use external code sources. It might cost money to use. All the ones I've used are free. But I don't know, if you're trying to write a piece of software that checks the stock market for latest share prices so that you can do an automated trading system or something like that, there's a good chance you're going to have to pay for the latest data. And this one I think is badly worded by AQA, but they mean that the external code source might not do exactly what you want to do. Say, for example, here, Jquery UI lets you very quickly put together a user interface, so like buttons and sliders and panels and tabs and all that sort of thing on a website. But it doesn't work particularly well on a touch surface like an iPad or a tablet. So someone else has had to hack it to make it work a little bit better. So sometimes the external library doesn't work as you want. So you've got to either spend more time making it work or have a sort of hacky, unpleasant solution. There are a couple of other things that the AQA haven't put on here. Disadvantages wise, it can make your project much larger. You've also got to make sure that you accredit all of your sources, otherwise you might have to you might get sued in future. But there's definitely loads of advantages if you share out the project. Reduces development time, you can get more functionality, and you end up ultimately with a better solution most of the time because you've got more people contributing on the code.